Hello, everyone. This is Scott Roberts with Explore Scientific, and this is the OpenGOTO Community Live. It's a new concept that we have to bring some of the technical support side to live Facebook so that we can have interaction with our users or people that want to know more about the PMC-Eight system, Explore Stars app, the ASCOM client that runs the PMC-Eight technology that we have in our mounts. It gives us a forum also to talk about individual challenges or special ways people want to configure the PMC-Eight, whether they're doing operating it with a tablet or they're operating it with a desktop, either at the telescope or from around the world. We have with us Jerry Hubbell, who's the Vice President of Engineering for Explore Scientific. And Jerry developed the PMC-Eight system several years ago. And the concept of the PMC-Eight was that it would have a open, more or less open architecture as far as the software goes. My experience before in my former job was that, with companies wanting to keep all of the GOTO technology proprietary, okay, and really not allow consumers to have much influence on it, we felt that it was better that the consumers could drive what GOTO technology was all about. So we developed the electronics. We talked about developing a community called the OpenGOTO Community. Jerry had opened a user group on groups.io, which today has over 400 members. And so that's really great. Kent Marts is he's really a senior technical rep here. He's been with us. He's like Jerry, he's a dyed-in-the-wool amateur astronomer. If you've called Explore Scientific's customer service, I know that's a faux pas.
You gotta get that out of your blood
21
there.
years at Meade, guys. I'm sorry. Anyways, I just started this company. I don't know. So, if you called Explore Scientific's customer service, you have probably talked to Kent. Jerry is often on the groups.io. Both of these guys have been involved in working with people that have maybe struggled with getting their setups going. And I can say pretty much without fail, they've been successful. Wes Mcdonald joins us. He's a special guest here. And Wes is often on the OpenGOTO community, and we really appreciate his interaction and the way that he helps us out. So we're going to have this show running every night, Monday through Friday, starting at 4:30. It's going to be about a half-hour program. We're going to pull questions and information directly from the OpenGOTO community. And so, Jerry, why don't you tell us more about Wes?
So yeah, Wes and I met at the Almost Heaven Star Party in 2017. I don't know, I don't remember how we interacted before then. I think you may have come up to me and talked to me about our products, and you were interested in the Exos 2 PMC-Eight. Is that right, Wes? You're still muted. So I met Wes and talked to him about I had a 127 that I bought from Scott about 10 years ago that I was going to sell too, and he was interested in that. So that's kind of how we got started with our friendship. And then he got the PMC-Eight and started working with me. He had some questions like everybody does when they first get the mount system. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about that, Wes.
Well, it's interesting that it's one of the things that I first had to talk to you about after I got the mount was the exact same problem that a lot of people sometimes have with their mount. in terms of the adjustment of the worm gear and the wheel. So I don't want to go into that extensively. I did want to point out to everybody that later on, like just this year, Jerry admitted that the 127 he sold me had been caught in a rainstorm or dropped or ruined and then refurbished. And so I guess it's a plug for Explore Scientific because, man, that thing is perfect. It was perfect when I got it. It's a lot less perfect now probably just because I've had it so long and it's sitting in the garage and all. But it was pristine and works like a charm. And this image behind me was taken. I guess that's visible.
Beautiful.
That was taken
Yeah.
I was taken with that telescope.
Nice.
Yeah, that happened to have a 0.7 reducer on it.
That was the original FCD1 one that you sold me 10 years ago, Scott.
Wow. Okay. Still working.
Yeah, and
Still working.
so another little detail is since then I've upgraded it with a very nice focuser. So there's, an electronic focuser. So there's all kinds of ability, as people have found with ASCOM and other things, to really trick these things out. All of the Explore Scientific products are just fantastic that way. And the mount in particular, as we all use it for very different uses, a lot of them, some of them at least, Jerry never even expected us to try to do when he built the thing.
Right,
but
right.
be used in these novel ways. Sometimes we get questions about, well, I'm using it this way, and we just think, goodness, I never thought of that one. That should work just fine. Anyway, that's probably all enough.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So Wes is a very experienced retired electrical engineer. He's highly educated and helps me a lot doing things. So I appreciate his help.
That's great. I want to take just a moment to recognize some of the people that are on with us. We've got Cohen Snamalom. Did I pronounce that right, Cohen? I'm sorry if I got it wrong here. I'm prone to making mistakes, as you've already found out tonight. Okay, Bergman Scooter, who often follows us. That's great. How you doing, Bergman? Cesar Brolo, down from Argentina. Jenny Bedell Shelley. Jenny Bedell Shelley. Yeah, thank you, Jenny, for joining us. Thomas Wesley Erickson, thank you. Mike Wiesner. Mike was on with us, I think, just yesterday, answering some questions about smart camera astrophotography. We ran his program that had aired earlier. Bill Black, thank you for joining us. Yes, you did find it. And Winfield Christopher Moses, thank you.
Oh, Chris.
Yeah.
Chris is another one we're going to have on our show. He's done a lot of development with the OpenGOTO community.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you, Chris, for the configuration manager.
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah, so Chris is definitely one of the programmers that's taken advantage of that OpenGOTO, the open system. Charlie Walsh says hello, and Ron Delvaux is with us again. So Ron runs a Facebook, I think it's a Facebook page. Is that right, Ron? You can even put down the link if you'd like. But he runs about program about hardware and astronomy. So anyhow, this is, again, as I said, this is kind of a new concept for us. It allows us to interact directly with people that are working with their systems and to answer questions that pop up every day on the OpenGOTO Community site. Jerry, why don't you give us some background on the start of the community and some of the highlights of what's gone on in the last 3 years.
Right. So I think so. We released the PMC-Eight at the beginning of 2017, and that's when the G11 was available. And then I think a month or two later, the XS2 became available. And at that point, I started thinking about what we needed to do in terms of customer service, and I knew it was going to be quite a bit of work. So I figured, well, let's start a group forum on Groups.io to support the mount system. And so it was a slow start, but basically at the beginning, the first year, I basically managed and contacted almost every customer, especially the early adopters that bought the system in the first 6 months. I was basically working directly with them, and Wes was one of those people that was the early adopter. And so I think the first year the forum grew. Let me share my desktop and I can show the forum. Just I'm sure everybody's familiar with it, but we'll see. I can point out some things to it. Do you see my desktop now?
I'm sure we do. There it is.
So the forum started out really slow the first year. I think we got up to about 100 users the first year. Actually, not even that many, probably like 60 to 80 users, I think, with our first year. But I basically managed every customer that bought the PMC-Eight and interacted directly with them. And that was my plan to help, because when I developed this thing, and Scott knows this, when you develop something like this and you spend your life's work doing it in your career, it becomes your baby. It's not like it's just a regular product to me. This is the first product I ever developed also. I'm going to confess that. And Scott has walked me through that process. It's a lot of work. It's a big deal going from a prototype to a product. I mean, it's almost as much work as developing it from scratch, So that was my first experience developing this product and getting it ready to release. And so I was willing and able to support our customers in that way and work directly with people. So that was the first year or so, and then I started training our support staff on different things, and it is a complex system. There's a lot to learn. Our customer support has to understand and work with every one of our pieces of our equipment. So there's a lot of equipment to learn how to use and to set up. So that's one of the things that it was, not that it was a slow going, but it was just took time to get people up to speed on the system and to be able to support and help me when people started calling in, And I'm not sure, how long ago did you start working, Kent?
Did you just ask me a question?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
we did.
One of the other CSRs is having a discussion with me right now about a PMC-8 question. So I was doing double
There you
duty.
go.
I'm sorry, Jerry. What you got?
I said I was just asking when we brought you on. How long ago have you been with us? About almost 2 years now.
2 years in October.
Okay, all right. So later on, I worked with other customer support staff that have gone and come and gone. A few people have come and gone, and gotten them up to speed. And then Kent came along, and I was able to work with him the first year he was here, 6 months, and he was up to speed pretty quickly on the system. He comes to me every now and again, of course, on some detailed questions about the technical details. But other than that, he does a great job for me. He takes at least 90% of the forum questions. I don't poke in quite as often as I did the first couple years. The past year I've been staying away from the forum a little bit more than I have been previously. So but everybody can still contact me if you can send me a message through the forum. My contact information's there, and I'll respond back. I think most everybody can agree that I pretty much respond to every email I get for specific questions. So this is the OpenGOTO Community Forum that we've had in place for the last 3 years, and you can see here the messages have just been steady over the last year, from 300 to 400. It goes up and down every month, maybe 100 or so, but so in 2019 is probably 200 to 300 average over the 12 months, and then we've had a big increase in customers joining the last 6 months since we released. Actually, since last year, we released the iXOS 100 mount about a little over a year ago, and that increased the users from probably 150 after the second year to 428 that we have today. So just over in the last year, we've actually added probably 100 to 150 over the last year. So we're on track to add quite a bit more than that this year. So do you want me to talk about our equipment a little bit first, Scott, before we go into the questions on the forum?
Let's just talk, because some of the people here, well, let me just read some of the comments we already have here.
Okay.
Aside from I can hear Scott's chair creaking, sorry about that, Cohen. I tend to rock in this thing. Let's see. Thomas Wesley Erickson says, thanks for setting this up. Cohen says he wants to thank Kent and his team for the help he provided regarding my battery question for my iXOS 100. Mike Wiesner says he's here to learn. I think a lot of people are here either just to, a lot of people are here to learn more about, the entire scope of, no pun intended with that, but the entire scope of the PMC-Eight system. And, if you follow this program, you're going to learn about all of it, as we go through it day by day. Gary Palmer, I know Gary is interested in an iXOS 100 over there in the UK. He'd love to use one. Gary does a lot of review work, which is great. Bill Black, I'm thinking, Bill is recognizing Jenny Bedell Shelley as Jennifer Shelley from the forum.
Yeah, Jennifer, yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to say hello to Jennifer. I've worked with Jennifer, and also Bill Black recently. We've been working on an interesting issue with him. We're not going to get into that today, but we'll get into that before too long.
All right. Cohen said, did you just had a question? That face that Kent made was priceless. Anyways, and then Edwin says, shout out to Kent. He's helped me so much. So that's really, really cool. So that kind of gives you a feel for the audience today. There's going to be people that will watch this that won't comment, which is fine. There's people that will watch this and, after it reruns. The show will be broadcast here live on Facebook. You could still find it on Facebook with the comments. When we archive it, it also transfers over to YouTube without comments. Okay, so if you're trying to look at the comments that the users would have or ask individually, then you're going to want to come back to Facebook. I know not everybody loves to be on Facebook, but it is a great forum to do this. So yeah, I think that we should probably talk a little bit about the steering committee as well, Jerry.
Okay. So back in 2017 in July, we had our first OpenGOTO Community seminar or forum. I don't remember what we did. What it was called exactly. Do you remember, Scott? And we invited people to come to learn about the PMC-Eight, and we had several people come. Steve Seidentop, Chris Tucker, Chris Moses came, I believe.
Yeah, it was the PMC-Eight. I forget exactly how we phrased it, but it was the intention of the meeting was to actually form the steering committee.
Right, and that's what we did. And Dan Dickerson was there. I can't forget Dan. He's a big part of this.
Huge part of this. Yeah, that's right.
Of this development, he developed the Explore Stars application for us, and so we started the steering committee to create the OpenGOTO community and to figure out. We wanted to get customers and also Steve Molly as a member of the steering committee. And Wes, when Chris Tucker left, Wes I submitted his name to join and asked him if he would join the steering committee also. And he's a member of the steering committee. But the purpose of the steering committee was to give us feedback from the customer point of view on to drive our development and do what we need to do to make this system as friendly to the customer and as open as we can for customers to do what they want with it. We don't want you to abuse us, but you can have our way. You can have your way with us if you want with the PMC-Eight.
Sure.
So you could have your way with it. Is
Right.
what it is. So so that was our goal, and we're continuing to build that system and the forum, and we do have some things on the forum that we'll get into in a minute. But I guess I'll talk about the mount system and just show what it looks like right now, what our mounts look like. So we have 3 mounts right now that have the PMC-Eight system on it. One is the Exos 2, which is right here. You can click on it here. That's the Exos 2.
This was
and then we have the
Alex and I put like almost 100 pounds on it and ran it.
Yeah, right.
I was really trying to break it is what I was trying to do, but it wasn't
Yeah, he was
successful.
I told him the motor system was pretty robust, and he didn't, I mean, he believed me, but he wanted to see if it was true.
Right.
This is the G11 that we offer, and so we got quite a few customers using the G11. I think Shelley or Jennifer Shelley has the G11.
Right.
And then here's our new baby, the iXOS 100, which I think is probably the best-selling PMC-Eight system right now. We've got more customers with the iXOS 100.
A great price,
and
great performance in such a small, lightweight mount.
And Wes, you bought the Exos 2 about 3 years ago, and then you just recently got the iXOS 100. Is that right?
I get the hang of this eventually.
Yeah,
yes.
That
was.
Wes, you don't have to mute yourself at all. Okay, just leave.
I don't know. Okay. I'll leave that to you.
Okay.
So right. So the answer is yes. I did.
Okay, cool.
And I'll tell you, I got it among other things because of the rave reviews people were giving it, and some of the incredible astro photos that were being taken with this little thing.
Right.
And I thought, well, gee whiz, I'd go out of town and drag my Exos 2 system with me, and it fills up half the car because of all my accoutrements, and mainly it's just a lot of stuff. So this was going to suit me just well for a pickup go-to. Go away with the go-to.
Hey, Jerry, why don't you show us some of those photos on your shared screen?
Yeah, and while you're doing that, we've got some questions popping up here, so I'm going to jump in with questions. Let's see. Here we go. So Ron is asking, did you guys reverse engineer the various proprietary hand controllers to make the OpenGOTO one, or did you just start fresh? I can answer that one. Okay.
Yeah, you can talk about that.
Guys, I as you heard, I worked for Mead Instruments for a number of years. I worked there for 21 years. I was there when they started developing the LX200 system. From its very beginning, leading all the way up to just about when the light switch product was about to come out, and that's when I left the company after all that time. But we started with as Jerry puts it, a clean slate approach, not only to the electronics, but we started from scratch with the the firmware. We started from scratch with a tablet run interface. We had some basic requirements, and then we wanted to build in enough margin so that it could work with all kinds of systems, because we don't know. And I don't want to tell amateur astronomers how they're supposed to do their robotic go-to technology on their telescopes. I want them to be able to pick their favorite software, or if you're a programmer, to design your own, So that's really the initiative here. let's see, not a question, but a comment, or a comment. He wants, Cohen is saying, push more products into the EU. It's hell to get accessories like the AZ adjuster, battery pads, etc. We're doing our best, Cohen. It is really based off of how many people ask in Europe for those products. So that's where we're at. Cohen wants to know what's the difference between the iXOS 2 and the iXOS 100. Do you want to answer that, Kent?
Sure, I'll answer that. The difference between the Exos 2 with PMC-8 and the iXOS 100 is effectively size and weight. The operating system is exactly the same. It's the same interface. It works with the same configuration manager to switch from wired to wireless. It comes down to weight. And, you know, the Exos 100 preceded me arriving here in its development, but the goal was to build a light, portable mount for use by people with a camera and maybe an ED80. And since then, it's really found a foothold in not only just camera and a lens system, but with telescope and lenses as well. There's a picture with one of our members has I don't know, it's a 6.5-inch Maxitov telescope that is giant, and he's got, I think, 11 or 12 pounds of counterweights on it. And he's, you know, it's about balance at that point. He's doing some pretty good work with it.
Yeah, so here's the picture right here.
There we go. So he's got, if you look on the bottom of that, the big counterweight is one of our 10-pound, it's actually 11.25 pounds that he made a bushing for, so it wouldn't wobble on the counterweight shaft, and he hammered it down in there with the hammer he shows. And so he hammered it down in there, and so it doesn't wobble. So he's got 11, let me see, so it's going to be 11 and a quarter, and then 2, 4, 6, 7. So he's got 15 pounds of counterweights.
Yeah.
Something like that on it.
Yeah.
And doing astrophotography with it. Do you have that picture of Saturn? Is that
at a long focal length? I don't know if I've got it.
Yeah, he sent me to my email a picture of a picture of Saturn he took as just a test image. He's planning on doing, as Saturn gets close to the meridian, he's planning to do some serious imaging with it. And try and do a whole bunch of stacking with it, see what he can get.
So he's doing unguided at 3,780 millimeter focal length for doing planetary imaging.
By unguided, he means that he's not using a guide scope.
Right, because it's a video signal. You don't have to guide on the.
Right, and just using the native. I think he's using Exos too. I don't even think he's hardwired. So it's smaller, lightweight. We added the azimuth adjuster to it because a lot of people were used to having finer control over it, and that product has been become, when people talk to me about what are the things, the first thing I say is add the azimuth adjuster. It'll give you more control. And the second one is buy the battery pack, because you can spend $69, $75 on a lithium ion and spend another $13 to $15 on the correct cord that may or may not have a tip that's really what it says it is, or you can buy ours for $99. And
yeah, that was a question today on the forum about power. We get those probably once or twice, once a week or so. I think people ask about power. People that are new to the forum, we ship it with the 8 D cell battery pack, C cell, 8 C cell battery pack. That doesn't. I think one guy got it to last like 6 hours or something. Is that right?
You know, and at $12 for 8 C cell batteries, it doesn't take you very long to pay for the battery pack. And yeah, you can use rechargeables, but that becomes problematic after a while too. It's just much easier just to spend the money and buy the upgrade and solve your problems. other than problems with people getting connected or loading the Android app, power is probably 75% of the issues people face. And it expresses itself in very strange ways sometimes. And they're like, no, it's got to be something else. And there literally has been a couple of customers that I have sent the battery pack to and said, plug this in. And they did, and they said, okay, I'm going to send you $100 because it just like that, it solved the problems.
Wes, can you talk about the power system? You're an expert on electrical systems.
Yeah, I can say a few words, and of course it's free advice and all that. The unit seems to run about a half an amp. The Exos 2 does anyhow, and it's mostly the motor current. So I imagine the iExos 100 does as well. I haven't measured it yet. But
yeah, it's about the same.
Pretty much a steady draw. It goes up a little when it slews, but when it's just sitting there tracking, it's going about half an amp. So that's 500 milliamps. And so when you get a battery, you want to know how long it's going to last. You find out what the milliamp hour capacity of the battery is. An example, there was one that was mentioned on the forum. It was 8,100 milliamp hours, and you divide that by, you can remember this number, 500 milliamps for your Exos, for your PMC-Eight, and that'll tell you the hours, assuming that the battery doesn't drop voltage and poop out on you, at least as far as the PMC-Eight input requirement goes. So 8,100 divided by 500 is about 16. And that would run 16, everything being a perfect world, and the battery performance being basically literally a brick wall, kaplooey, right? But that's not how they work. The lithiums are pretty good. They go along pretty good, but then they do start to sag, and you'll hit a point where the output voltage is usable for a lot of products and think can source the current, but it's not going to be good enough for the PMC-Eight. And right. I don't know where that is for any given product. But you've got it's
10.5 volts is when the regulators start to poop out.
What I mean is I don't know how depleted the battery can be on any given battery before that point would be reached. So that's why in the answer to his question about 8,100 milliamp hours, I told him I derated it by about 50%. That ought to happen every single time until the battery gets old and stupid. That ought to happen every single time. So you can, if you want to know if you can work with a certain battery for a certain amount of time, and you're only going to load it with the PMC-Eight, go right ahead and use that formula. Divide the milliamp hour rating of the battery by 500, and you'll be pretty close to and derate it by 50%, and you won't be surprised. And I think there are other examples of people out there that have run their Exos 100s and maybe their PMC-8s. They've run them all evening doing observations with batteries of this class, so about 10,000 milliamp hour. Kent, how much do you have on your product? I don't know it off the top of my head.
What's the question?
How much capacity is there in that battery that you all
8,600, I think it is. I'll look it up real quick.
Yeah. What I can tell you is that when I go to star parties showing off our products, I mean, I'm running... I have those batteries fully charged up, and I bring extras with me just in case, but I'm pretty much running all weekend off of one set of batteries. So
83.
Right. So that doesn't surprise me because they've got a long way to go, especially when they're new and everything. And as long as you don't load them down with your dew heaters and cameras and all the other stuff that you might be wanting to use, but if you're running them out alone with it, you're going to get a lot of use out of one of those things.
Sure.
I don't think I fully answered the question about the difference in the mounts that you're thinking about it. The Exos 2 has a astronomical capacity of 28 pounds of telescope and cameras, and the Exos 100 has a stated capacity by us of 9 pounds of telescope and astronomical gear. So it holds the Exos 2 is much more robust. Has a much heavier tripod, which, because of the azimuth adjuster adapter, you can add medium duty or a heavy duty tripod to it and get more stability, which Jerry's done some calculations on that should increase the weight capacity some as well. So it's just a bigger, more robust mount than the Exos 100 is.
Yeah, that's been a recent thread also about, well, that's that weight capacity thread that I showed a minute ago.
Right.
Yeah, we have
right
some
here.
questions. I would imagine the next mount we're going to talk about is the G11. So
yeah, we had a question about the weight capacity.
Yeah, there's a question about the weight capacity.
Right. So it's well, we also had a question from Bill Black when it's going to be 80% off the retail price.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So the weight capacity is 60 pounds for astrophotography and 100 pounds. Oh, there it is right there. 100 pounds total load rating. The G11 is a beast.
That tripod is solid as a rock too. It's just like a pier with concrete in the ground once you set it up correctly.
And I have a friend in the astronomy club here that he uses it as a portable mount. He can tear it down and set it up in about 15 minutes, and he's got it together and ready to get it polar lined. It's impressive to watch him. He's got it down to a fine art, and well, and it's great. It's great for like a 127, absolutely. Yeah. So, what other questions, Scott, do we have?
Well, Jenny makes a comment. She said that the PMC-Eight ASCOM driver works well with both APT and NINA with Stellarium, something she's doing. Mike Wiesner mentions, I still have and use many ETX models upgraded from my 8-inch LX200 ACF to the 12-inch LX600 in my observatory. Mike has been he was somebody that really propelled the popularity of the ETX through his books and his website and stuff. I really love what he's done in the online community, and he's still at it. He says the AutoStar is good, but it has not evolved well over the 20 years of its life. That's something we hope that the PMC-Eight never faces. There's, I was at Meade, at a couple of times where, this is a very volatile industry, guys. I mean, there's times where, we get a great comet or, a Mars opposition or something, some major thing will happen. And if you're in the industry, the sales are just exploding. They're going crazy, okay? But on the other side of that explosion in sales is a cliff where sales go off, okay? And this affects manufacturers, retailers, everybody, because the market for a little while saturates. And you can't sell a telescope to save your soul, okay? And if you're trying to put dinner on the table with telescope sales during that time, it can get very rough, okay? Companies have come and gone in this industry, if you got a bunch of old Sky and Telescope magazines and just look at all the companies, that have started up and have gone away. I mean, we're now in our 12th year. Yeah, I'm happy to say that. And I see a bright future ahead. But, there's, even some of the largest companies in our industry, and I'm happy to say we're now one of them, but, both Meade and Celestron have faced times where they were almost out of business, okay? If you have a proprietary system and the business goes down, what happens with that proprietary system? Does it ever evolve again? Does it, do bugs ever get worked out of them? Those kinds of things. So those are always questions I had. So it's God forbid that Explore Scientific would one day go away. But, we're building equipment that should last a long, long time. And, the OpenGOTO community should, we run into a scenario where, something bad was to happen like that. That doesn't mean the end of the life of the product. So that's
right.
If you're a university, you've made the investment into an observatory, you're not just dabbling into this, but you're an astronomer and this is your life. You want to have gear that can stick with that, so that's a comment I will make.
And that's why we started with a clean sheet design too, because we wanted to have the latest technology going forward so that it was flexible and had a lot of margin. That was a key word for me, is margin and performance.
You'll remember when I was first developing the PMC-Eight with you, I wanted it to be able to be submerged in water and still work.
Yeah, right.
And
yeah.
The only thing that we didn't do
right.
so that you could actually do that was to put on waterproof connectors, okay? And we were starting to go down that path, and I looked at the price of waterproof connectors, and I was going, oh my God,
That's right, yeah. We had an O-ring seal on the case. The original, well, you may see it if you pull your aluminum case apart on your G11 or your Exos 2. You'll see the O-ring seat in there without the O-ring.
Right. But our electronics are designed to work outdoors and to take all the stuff you can throw at it. So that's the we do not want to be replacing electronics and to be going through that whole process that I know that my competitors are always working on, is replacing electronics or fixing electronics. I don't want to fix electronics.
No, we'd rather fix software than anything.
Exactly.
If there's a software problem, let's fix it and we can get it done.
Fast.
It's like...
That's a fast turnaround. So, yeah. Mike Wiesner says he also votes for Sky Safari Pro support. I love using it with my LX600, especially for asteroids and comets. Yep, that's right. Let's see what other questions we have here. Wes, this is a question for you. Are slow charging batteries preferable to fast charging batteries in order to maintain the health of the battery?
Very good question. That would assume I knew that much about battery technologies, but I'll tell you that the fast charge technology has been characterized by certain people that I trust as a suicide pack for the battery, but they're talking about something far different from what we're doing here. And I would say that if you have a battery from a vendor that has a charger and it charges quickly rather than slowly, you're probably fine. And they're going to be expended. I'll tell you that. They're going to be expended anytime you discharge them a lot. And these batteries all have discharge cycle lives, which is actually why I use a marine deep discharge lead acid, and I have for a long time, partly because I can power everything I have in the whole garage in terms of telescopes all at once if I wanted to, all the dew heaters, everything under the sun. And it's going to run me, I can run with everything going, I can run 2 days in the Star Party with it, but I take it in and charge it during the day anyhow. But it's got all kinds of power. It's over 100 amp hours, so it's got enough juice to keep me going. And it's very robust, the marine batteries. But see, this is something that you have to want to do, and you're going to have to build it. It's very heavy and all. But these light lithium packs, I wouldn't fear them. I'd use them. One thing I ran into with a lithium pack that I bought, actually, my guy who's going to end up being my son-in-law, I bought him a lithium battery pack, and it had a minimum current draw. It would turn itself off. And Michael appreciate this, when it was running a little ETX 80, it wouldn't run it. It would turn on and run for a minute or two, and then it would just shut down. So that thing's not using any current.
Like you're not really using.
I don't have any load.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll have that problem with the PMC-8 system because it does draw half an amp, and that's plenty to keep everybody alive. But as far as the fast technology goes, I'd have to research it for you and speak with any great authority, but stick with a vendor recommendation for a charger.
Yeah. Who else? Paul Cotton is joining us again from Cornwall, UK. Yeah, that's kind of where we're at. We're caught up on comments and questions at this moment. So, folks, we had planned to run a 30-minute program. We're about 45 minutes into it. And we're going to be on tomorrow and the next day. So or actually tomorrow. I think today's Thursday, right?
Yeah, just tomorrow. So
It
it's
is
Friday.
tomorrow,
Yeah,
and then
so
we'll
it'll
be
be right.
back on Monday. So, to answer more questions. If you don't already belong to the PMC-Eight group, the OpenGOTO Community group, we could, suggest that you join. It's of course free to join, and we will be choosing topics and questions directly from that group. And of course, you're always welcome to ask them here too. Jerry, is there anything that you wanted to add before we wrap up this program?
No problem. Yeah, yeah.
Can't hear you.
I had my mute on. Yeah. So we're going to be able to talk about a lot of topics since we're going to have do this very often, every day basically. But so we'll be talking about questions, but I think I'd like to also do little quick training sessions. I know beginners have been asking for videos on how to do certain things. So maybe we'll take 20 minutes to demonstrate X, Y, and Z on the software. How do you set up the ASCOM driver? How do you configure the Explore stars for your mount? How do you do anything that you want to do with your software? We'll be able to do little lessons like that during this time. I think that would be good. And then we'll have guests on like Wes. I want to have Chris Moses on to talk to him about the configuration manager. And maybe that'll be a couple of days of sessions to show you how to use a configuration manager. There's a lot to learn. And even though we have a lot of documentation, one of the things we're striving to do also is to improve our user manuals. I did a recent poll on the forum about what people liked or what people didn't like about our user manuals. So that's going to be a big feature of this too, is that we're going to be able to get direct feedback from everybody on what kind of documentation they like to see and what kind they don't. We try to do as much as we can technically, because we're trying to, basically what our goal is to create the technology at a high-end level and then push it down so everybody can get access to the performance of this technology.
Right.
And that's what we've done with the G11. We started with the G11, we pushed it down to the iXOS 100.
That's right. That's right. Ron asked one final question here. Is there going to be some who will interface a Raspberry Pi to the mount? Is anybody doing that now in the community that you're aware of?
Yeah, they're running. So there's a couple ways. Most people that use Raspberry Pi are running Linux, and so they run the Indy driver that's available for the PMC-8, which we can get into. Michael Fulbright, one of our customers, developed the Indy driver system for Linux and Mac OS. So that's how they're utilizing it. That's a good question to ask on the forum. Say who is using Raspberry Pi with their PMC-8 system.
Sure.
And people will respond.
Well, great. Okay, so
Hey, Ron,
any final comments from you, Kent?
I was going to ask Ron if he's a member of the PMC-8 community.
Yeah, we don't hear you much, Kent.
That's weird. Okay, is this better?
A little bit better.
A little bit better. I'm talking louder. I was asking if Ron is a member of the PMC-8 community. I may just go ahead and post that question as a quick survey just to see who's using Raspberry Pi. For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Ron, you might consider joining. Just you don't have to be a.
Yeah, you don't have to be a customer or an owner. You can be anybody that's interested in the system. That's really what we're after, is to get anybody that's interested in the system.
And I posted the link in the questions, so that the link is there, so you can join that way to the main page.
User Vince has one, I know, and there may be others but he stands out because of all the neat things he's done. He built himself to hook on and run this thing. But in the end, it's all driving the PMC-8. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, gentlemen. Wes, you're welcome to come and join us anytime. If you got something that you want to add or whatever, please feel free to knock on my electronic door here.
Okay. Will do. Thank you.
Okay. So tonight, I'm going to segue here a little bit. Tonight at 7 o'clock Central, which is about an hour and a half away. We've got Zoe Chi and Andrew Fazekas from Astronomers Without Borders, and they're going to talk a lot about something that has been on the minds of a lot of amateur astronomers, and that is how to carry on astronomy outreach and star parties in a COVID-19 world. Okay, and so they did Global Astronomy Month. They thought it would be a bust because of coronavirus, and it turned out to be one of the most amazing events they've ever done. So if you don't know who Astronomers Without Borders is, they started during the International Year of Astronomy. They have conducted some of the world's largest star parties, where over 1 million people partook in a global astronomy 24-hour period where astronomy being done around the world with photographs and all kinds of stuff. This was an organization that was founded by Mike Simmons, who's a dear friend of mine, and he has since retired from AWB. And but we were on the phone today with Mike, and he's got all kinds of new ideas for all kinds of new stuff. So, join us here in about an hour and a half at 7 p.m. Central, and we'll talk to you later. Take care. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.